大家好，我叫 Tessa， 这是我的手机，谁有一个 Fairphone 手机 ？No, just kidding. I had to do this, okay. I do speak a little bit of Chinese, but I was winging it, and it's definitely not Cantonese. So, yes, thank you for inviting me to this really nice conference. I've been walking around since yesterday afternoon and already feel inspired. So I hope to give you a little bit of inspiration with this presentation about what Fairphone is, how we started, and where we are today. So, how did we start? Well, Fairphone started as an awareness-raising campaign in 2010, and it was around the issue of conflict minerals. And I'm not sure if all of you know what these are, but these are minerals that are mined in conflict regions, at that time the Democratic Republic of Congo. And a lot of these minerals are used in electronics, but instead of the proceeds actually going to create welfare and in these countries, they were actually fueling a war economy. Now, nobody knew this at the time. There's still not a lot of people who know about this. So enough reason to do a campaign. So that's where we started. But how do you get from a campaign or from conflict minerals to a phone? It seems to be like there's a big gap between that. And when there's a big gap between that, you can feel a little bit like this. The problem is so big and so hard to identify that you don't really know where to start. What we saw as Fairphone is that we saw a series of steps. And sometimes that first step is really enough to go on that journey. So we started with a phone, but we didn't. Not really, not with Fairphone, because Fairphone really was an idea first. It was a powerful idea, and for 3 years we functioned actually as an idea before anyone made a call with a Fairphone. So what did we do? We took the phone as a way to really start unraveling the supply chain and to see what was out there. Because electronic supply chains are complex, they're global. We didn't know anything about conflict minerals, so what else didn't we know about? We started in the Congo. We looked at the materials that came out of the ground. We spoke to miners. We spoke to smelters. And we saw that minerals go into components, and once they've been going into components, they go into factories to be assembled into bigger electronics. And we know about conflict minerals, but we also saw that the working conditions in these areas are actually not up to scratch. People work long hours for low wages with little influence in how to change their future. And when these phones are assembled, they go to markets where we use them, but not for years and years and years, but they're actually sold for 1 year, 2 year contracts. And what happens then is we throw them into a drawer, or we give them to somebody else. And often they get recycled or refurbished, they go to second-hand markets. And they end up in piles, waste piles, in countries where there is no proper recycling facilities. So is this the value that we want to add with our products? This is what we were thinking. We don't know where it's from or who makes it. But now we were slowly figuring out that actually the impact of our electronics was pretty negative. This invisible hand that was quoted, that runs our markets economy, has become so invisible that we've lost connection with what's behind these products we use every day. And that could also be really negative, something to sit down and go, okay, the world's a bad place. But what we also saw was that it was a powerful symbol of what our economy is today, how it functions. So how can we use this as a symbol and as a storytelling device to think about what kind of economy do we want? What kind of products do we want? How do we see these things that we use every day adding value, not only to us, so that we have WhatsApp and we have functionality and we have stuff that we can use every day, but how can we see how the production from beginning to end can add value? So that was the awareness-raising campaign. We'd been doing it for 3 years, but our next step was to say, okay, we can, talk about this as an NGO, maybe from the outside in, but what we wanted to do was to say, no, we need to do it from the inside out. So we became a social enterprise, the first social enterprise, in fact, in the electronics industry. And we said, we're going to use this phone, and we're going to start trying to create impact. So we chose a business model. We're here as a business. And that means that we're making a product, and through this product, we want to work with suppliers on the one hand, see how we can make impact in these 4 areas. And on the other, we see it really as a storytelling tool and a way to show that there is a demand and a market for fairer electronics. So we have that, but a phone is actually a pretty complex product to make, right? So what did we do next? Well, I looked up this slide, and it actually made me a bit nostalgic. It was from 2013. This was the phone that we sold in 2013. It was a virtual phone, digital, and it was on our website, and it stood for a couple of things. And it stood for what we said was, okay, it's not a solution, we can't change the world, we can't make world peace happen, but we can make a start. And if you are willing to join us, then you can start by financing the production of your own phone. So we set up a crowdfunding campaign, and within 1 month, we had 10,000 people who had actually purchased the Fairphone. And I think that still, when I look back, I think that's one of the most amazing points in our journey, is that these people really paved the way for us to make the next step. So we're talking about 2014, 15. We've been around for 3 years. We have 60,000 Fairphone 1 owners. Are there any in the audience today? Because I've been approached by some. I see some. Yay! Thanks again. So you made the next Fairphone possible. So I have it here. What we did is that with the first Fairphone, we were able to make some changes. But with the second, we said, how can we use the design of the phone to really connect people to the product, to understand more about what's inside, but also to make them part of change. So we made it open. You can open it up yourself, you can repair it yourself, you can make it last for a bit longer. And the other thing that it made us able to do was to really look into the supply chain and to start redesigning the supply chain. What suppliers did we want to work with? Which materials could we start sourcing now that we had more influence? And this phone has become, on the one hand, the object that people use and tell the story. It unites the suppliers, and these are some of the examples that we've been able to achieve so far. So you can follow the journey of tungsten. Now, I always forget to say this, but a phone is not a banana or a coffee bean, which is one commodity. It's thousands of supply chains. So there are 38, 40 materials in a phone, and we need to take it step by step, because there's no way we can tackle all of them at once. After the tungsten, we looked at how can we set up fair trade gold supply chains. So we worked with a supplier who is an amazing Austrian supplier who set up this supply chain with Fairtrade International. And if it works, they can scale it up and start supplying all of their customers with Fairtrade Gold. So it's a really great example of how the impact can scale beyond our own market. I was just approached from somebody from the university who said that Fairphone is used as a case study, which is really nice to hear, because the most ethical phone you have is the one you already own. If you keep it for longer, you prevent new phones from being built, which is something we were able to research. CO2 emissions are the most in production, not in transport or use. So make sure you keep it for longer. And for people who really want to understand how their money is used, we have a cost breakdown, understanding how a business model for a social enterprise could work and where the margins go. So it's really about creating a movement around this product. Now, I think that it's a whole lot of steps, and it's a journey, iterative, falling down, getting up again. And I think that it's really important to have so many people around us who have been supporting us, because I think the one thing that keeps us going in all of the steps that we've taken is our purpose. You see that a lot of people who work with us connect with us because they have a strong connection to the brand and to the mission. And I think that it's, it hasn't been easy. The first 3 years have been an incredible move and momentum. We're now in a year of scaling up. So where are we now? These are our partners on our journey toward fairer electronics. And I think it's important to note that we say impact needs to happen. We're a small enterprise and we're trying to disrupt the industry. But real impact will come when consumers really start voting with their wallets and showing that that is what they want, not just fairer electronics, but fairer products in general. So keep on doing that. We're working with operators around the world. We're working with NGOs, with academics. And I think that the one thing that we need to show is that the movement is goes beyond the little enterprises that are starting, but that it's much bigger. And that's where we are today. I think that this conference is testimony of the fact that there is a lot happening. I've been speaking to a lot of people who are doing amazing stuff and connecting the dots, and there's a shared narrative. And that little sentence of co-creating a narrative is really recognizable for me at Fairphone, because if you ask people at Fairphone, you know, what is it and what did you achieve? Then it's different for everybody. For the technology people, it's we put to market the first modular phone. And for the customer support people, it's helping people to fix their products. And for the people in the value chain, it's about sourcing conflict-free minerals or having elections in a factory in China. But the nice thing is that this phone has become that means to connect people around what they believe in and to move it forward and to really become powerful. So I think what we need now is to really unite on that and to show that, you know, everybody can do it from their own perspectives. We're doing it as a business. We've used the phone as a means to an end to unite people, to solve a bigger problem. And I stand here now in front of all of you, and it seems like we had it all figured out from the beginning, and that we knew what we were going to do, but that's not true at all. We were like 4 or 5 people who just had this idea. And as we started talking to people, we realized how it was gaining traction. And that is the one thing that I can say to everybody, is that every single journey starts with one step. And as you take that step, you'll see how people around you will lift you up and contribute and to move you forward. So I wish all of you good luck in every journey that you're going to take. Thank you.